Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So the landscape at super middleweight is abundantly clear. Canelo Alvarez is the champion, the undisputed champion, holds all the titles, the number one guy in the division. When you look at the rest of the division, there's very few viable contenders to challenge Canelo. There's very few guys that would make for an intriguing opponent. Hence why we're hearing rumours about Terence Crawford moving up, Jamal Charlo, who's been super inactive, moving up. There's talks of a Berlanga fight. It goes to show the lack of depth at super middleweight. However, the elephant in the room is David Benavidez, the clear number one contender at 168. And quite frankly, it's been obvious for the best part of 2 years that Benavidez is the best fight for Canelo at 168. Ever since Canelo has been undisputed, Benavidez has been the clear number one contender and clearly the best fight for him to take if we're interested in competitive matchups and intriguing matchups. However, the issue when it comes to someone like Canelo, he has a whole army of fanboys, as well as uploaders who play certain angles, protecting him. Those of us who have been asking for a Benavidez fight for many months now, always get told this, that and the other reason why the fight can't happen or why the fight shouldn't happen. I had people telling me that John Ryder was a better opponent for Canelo than Benavidez. I heard people saying a 41-year-old Golovkin was a better opponent than Benavidez, etc. We go round and round and round and round and round. Now it seems that Canelo is still going in a different direction, still showing no interest in fighting Benavidez. To me, the energy, hate using that term, but Canelo doesn't really seem to have the desire to fight Benavidez. It looks like there is some reluctance on his side to make that fight happen. According to latest news, and take this with a grain of salt, but Benavidez's promoter Samson Lukowicz, apparently Canelo was offered $50–55 million, whereas Benavidez was only making $5 million if those two guys were to fight. Apparently they were talking about it, but Canelo went missing. Take that with a grain of salt. Samson Lukowicz isn't always the most reliable. But regardless, to me it's clear Canelo doesn't really have any desire to fight Benavidez, and you know, that's resulted in a lot of people being disappointed. But listen, the people who have ran damage control on Canelo for all this time, they're to blame. They're a big reason why this fight isn't happening, not applying pressure. But instead, they would rather play certain angles, play into certain narratives. You know, like Canelo Alvarez could be leaving PBC, and people are happy about it. People are happy that we don't get the Benavidez fight. You know what I'm saying? This is the level of people we're dealing with on this whole YouTube boxing scene. They'd rather score petty points in promotional wars where they're getting paid no money rather than actually see good fights. But there you go. That's how clapped a lot of boxing fans are. Regardless, it looks like Benavidez is moving on with his career. And according to various reports, he could be fighting at light heavyweight against Oleksandr Gvozdyk for the interim WBC light heavyweight title. I have to say, I actually quite like this fight. If Benavidez can't get anything going at 68, he needs to continue his career. I like the path he's been going down in the last year, fighting Plant, fighting Andrade, beat those guys, move on, you know, continue to fight good guys, and I think Gvozdyk is another good opponent. Now, Oleksandr Gvozdyk is, what, 35, 36 years old? He's not the fighter he was since the Beterbiev fight, but he's not shot either. Gvozdyk recently has engaged on a comeback trail, so to speak. Had 3 fights last year, won each one. A couple of those opponents were no marks, it has to be said, but he beat a guy called Richard Bolotniks, who is a European level fighter, tough guy, and Gvozdyk took him apart. He hurt him, he beat him up, and he stopped him. Bear in mind, Gvozdyk, yeah, past his best, but he still has something left. He can still punch hard. He's still dangerous in my opinion. And Joshua Buatsi, for example, he's viewed as one of the most promising non-champions at light heavyweight. Look at his fight with Bolotniks. Gvozdyk did far, far better. He took out Bolotniks in far better fashion. And we're talking about Buatsi as a viable contender. Gvozdyk did a better job than Buatsi against Bolotniks. So, for me, it's clear Gvozdyk still has something left. Not the fighter he once was, fair enough, but I think he poses some very real threat to Benavidez. You know, Benavidez is sometimes very upright. Defensively, without doubt, he does have flaws. I think his high guard is getting better, but he definitely has flaws. You know, Kyrone Davis was able to tag him up. Plant was. Andrade was. The difference is those guys can't punch, and Benavidez has a weight advantage on those guys I mentioned. Gvozdyk has power. And also Gvozdyk, when he gets you hurt, he can finish you as well. He's got decent finishing instincts. He's accurate, he hits hard, he can take advantage of defensive mistakes, he can counter you. There's a lot here for Benavidez to worry about when it comes to Gvozdyk. And it's a fight that he can't sleep on. If this fight happens, he can't sleep on Gvozdyk. He can't be looking at him as like a washed-up 36-year-old. Like I said, I think Gvozdyk is past his best. But from what I've seen on his comeback fights, he's not a shot fighter either. He still has a little bit left. And Gvozdyk, listen, Gvozdyk needs this sort of fight as well. He's on his comeback trail, had some comeback fights, he's 36, he needs a big-name opponent to get himself in the mix of fighting maybe Beterbiev again or Dmitry Bivol, whoever wins that fight. He needs a win like Benavidez. He needs a high-profile win to get his name back in the mix. So it makes sense for Gvozdyk, no doubt. This fight makes perfect sense for Gvozdyk. It's a fight he should take. It's a tough fight against a younger guy who's strong, who's coming off momentum, but he needs this sort of win to get back in the mix. And listen, Benavidez presents opportunities that Gvozdyk can really capitalise on. As I said, Benavidez's defence isn't always the sharpest. Gvozdyk hits very hard. We've not seen Benavidez fight a puncher on the level of Gvozdyk. You know? Gvozdyk puts people to sleep at light heavyweight. He's put people to sleep. Good light heavyweights as well. Guys like Adonis Stevenson, you know? When I look at this fight, I see it as a banana skin for Benavidez. We don't know how he's going to look at light heavyweight. He's not going to have the same sort of size advantage as he had at 168. It's an interesting fight in my opinion. I would love to see it. I would love to see it. And putting the WBC interim title on the line, I don't always like these interim titles, but I have no issue with it if the winner fights the winner of Bivol Beterbiev. I think that gives us a couple of good fights. Well, 3 good fights, to be honest. You know, we get the Bivol Beterbiev fight, Benavidez versus Gvozdyk, and then the winners can fight each other. I'm all for that, to be honest. But yeah, I like this fight. I like this fight. It is interesting, though, how Gvozdyk is very close with Canelo Alvarez. He's been part of several Canelo camps recently. It's interesting that Gvozdyk is the guy who may be fighting Benavidez, don't you think? You know, on his guard duty, I guess. I'm joking, or maybe not. But yeah, good fight. I like this one. I hope it happens. I hope this fight happens. I don't want to see Benavidez wait around and fight a scrub. I'd rather see him go to like light heavyweight and fight Gvozdyk. Or if he stays at 68, fight David Morrell. You know, fight good guys, man. Just continue with your career. So yeah, I like this bout. What about you guys? Share your thoughts below. Peace.